William Wallace, a name that conjures up emotion in the heart of every Scot. The monument to this Scottish patriot towers like the giant that he was over the site of his greatest triumph at Stirling Bridge, after which he had the English governor Cressingham flayed and his skin used as a scabbard. But what if I said that this is actually a monument to the British Empire and the glory of the Anglo-Scottish Union? If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. In the meantime, let me tell you its story. We live in a time when internet spin and propaganda has people believing red is green. At the very least, the waters are muddied enough that people can confidently believe what they want to believe. By the time I'm finished, you're going to see that William Wallace isn't a Scottish hero, but a shining star of the British Empire. If you think that's an uphill struggle, you'll need to come with me to find out. Let's get pedantic just for a minute. You see, we might drive past this place and lazily call it the Wallace Monument, but it's more correctly called the National Wallace Monument. Unlike the statues and monuments to Wallace across the country, this one represents the nation. The Statue of Liberty in New York, the Eiffel Tower in Paris, the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. You see people at a football World Cup carrying or wearing the things that identify their nation. Americans dressed as liberty, English as crusading knights, French as Asterix or Obelix, Canadian Mounties, Greeks in togas, Italians as Roman legionaries. When this monument was built, it was built to hold and represent the hopes, dreams, values and characteristics of a nation, framed in the character and name of one man. So who decided what characteristics and values the Wallace Monument would represent? Who was the driver behind it? The idea of a Wallace Monument had been around for a while, but in the early 1850s, national pride and enthusiasm for a monument to William Wallace on the Abbey Craig here was taken up by one Reverend Charles Rogers. He was an energetic town councillor and Stirling Castle chaplain who'd raised funds for other monuments in the past and was the impetus behind the 1851 formation of the National Wallace Monument Committee. Now, the Reverend Rogers wasn't a nationalist, certainly not in any sense that we'd recognise. Polite Victorian society would never endure the idea of Scottish political nationalism. The Empire, sir! Like Walter Scott before them, you might have a love for things culturally Scottish, but the idea that there should be a political element to national sentiment out with the Union, no, 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 no. The fundraising and management committee had to be very careful not to give the impression of promoting Scotland in its own right. After all, Rogers had agents in Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool and London. A monument to a Scottish hero that focused on his triumph, even temporarily, over the English, would send all the wrong signals. In fact, the Times of London thundered that Wallace was little more than a myth and the idea of a monument was provincial petty exclusionism. No, the message would be of a William Wallace who stood for ideals that transcended national boundaries. A William Wallace of whom Scots could be so proud that there'd be no question of political independence. We need a national statue to celebrate what William Wallace did for the Union. One 1856 magazine article said that Wallace's value to English liberty was equal to his efforts for Scottish independence. Wallace was a Unionist hero, nay, a champion of the British Empire. At Stirling Bridge, William Wallace fought for Union and the Empire. He just didn't have the foresight to realise it. At the ceremony laying the foundation stone, the huge crowd was reminded that if it hadn't been for Wallace's victory at Stirling Bridge, Scotland would never have brought an independent nation to the table to forge a union of equal nations, creating an empire to the glory of God and the benefit of the world. If you think Mel Gibson played fast and loose with Scotland's history, but hold on. Rogers and his ilk weren't the only people on the committee. Let me tell you about William Burns, solicitor, historian, influential Glaswegian and rabid radical nationalist leader in the NAVSR. The NAVSR. It was a catchily Victorian title. But to be honest, the National Association for the Vindication of Scottish Rights weren't really that radical at all. They were nowhere near the SNP today, although it might be argued that ignoring them was what was eventually to lead to the SNP. Their complaint was that based on population and value to the Exchequer, Scotland was underrepresented at Westminster. The larger partner in the Union permanently outvoted the smaller neighbour, who was inevitably disadvantaged. What they wanted was an increase in the Scottish MPs at Westminster that would reflect Scotland's population share. That's right. They wanted even more Westminster. But that was still seen as radical, dangerous and anti-English. So the radical firebrand NACVR members, they had to give assurances that they wouldn't hijack the monument for their own ends, which seems ironic, since by definition, every monument is for some cause's ends. Throughout Scottish history, there have been a succession of minority monarchies. James I, James II, James III, James IV, James V, his daughter Mary Queen of Scots and her son James VI were all minors when they came to the throne. Generation after generation, those with an eye for a chance fought to be regent, because who controlled the king controlled Scotland. In the 19th century constitutional debate, whoever controlled the National Wallace Monument would control how Scotland saw itself. Imposing the meaning of the monument to Scotland's patriotic hero seemed like a prize worth fighting for. The struggle for the committee's future would be to decide who owned the past. William Burns and Charles Rogers were continually at odds, and I mean bitter rivals. So who won? At one key point, with Burns in the ascendancy, a design for the monument was adopted. Artist J. Noel Paton's Lion and Typhon. Now, Typhon was a grotesque giant man-serpent monster thing, and one of the deadliest creatures from Greek mythology. The plan was to make a huge structure of a lion with a broken chain overthrowing this creature. The symbolism, of course, being that the Scottish lion breaking through the chains of tyranny. Well, the establishment had to order extra quantities of super soft Luro, they shot themselves that hard. Fortunately, a subsequent committee meeting was held, and in June 1859, Lion and Typhon was rejected. Ho, 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 ho! That was a close one. Paton's design was dropped, and new designs were called for. The winner was the Scottish baronial tower that stands on that rocky crag today. It would be perfect. A rocky crag surmounted by rough-hewn tower and topped by an imperial crown symbolising the power of the British Empire. Scottish history and heritage crowned with the achievements of union and empire in one harmonious whole. Did you realise that the Wallace Monument was a shining symbol of the British Empire? The battle for the design of the monument had been won, but the war wasn't over. By the time the foundation stone was eventually laid in 1861, Rogers, who'd written 20,000 letters in one 5-year period, had gained enough support from around the empire for just half the funds needed to build the monument. Lack of inspirational leadership, or as Burns argued, financial mismanagement. Rogers jumped, or was pushed, from secretary and principal fundraiser of the Wallace Monument Committee. Who replaced him? William Burns. Some had suggested that the very fact that the NAVSR members like Burns were involved in the committee was the reason that fundraising had been a problem in the first place. Whether Burns's extremist nationalist views or Rogers' creative accounting had slowed down the project, under William Burns's chairmanship, fundraising and construction went on successfully. And Rogers set up his own supplementary committee. The National Wallace Monument was completed with Burns in the chair almost 20 years after conception. During construction, the architect had died and the project had run well over budget. Maybe they should build a Scottish Parliament. The inauguration ceremony in 1869 might have seemed like the finish line, but it was really only the passing of the baton. Rogers had won the design, Burns had overtaken him to bring the project home. But there was another hurdle to come. In 1886, they opened the Hall of Heroes with busts of other great heroes of Scotland, starting with Robert Burns. William Burns had run his race. His finish line had passed 10 years earlier, and Rogers and his unionist nationalists were once more in the ascendancy. In 1896, they held a celebration here to commemorate the 600-year anniversary of Wallace's victory over the English at the Battle of Stirling Bridge below. 40 years after the Times had decried a Wallace monument as petty provincialism, it now celebrated the deep and lasting impression that the Wallace had made upon the empire. The Telegraph said that Englishmen and Scotsmen should join together in celebrating the shared advantages and yeoman service that the national independence of Scotland had brought to the Union and the British Empire. So Rogers had won, and the National Wallace Monument stood as a symbol and celebration of the British Union and Empire. Is that how you see it today? Let me know in the comments section below. Has pole position in the race changed since 1896? Will it change again? Unlike with the tortoise and the hare, in this race, as long as the monument stands, the finish line is never reached. You see, monuments don't occupy a date or a point in time, but a continuum. And they don't represent the designer's intentions, but the viewer's interpretation. As we enter the National Wallace Monument, we see Rogers on one side and Burns on the other. They may have seen two opposing sides of a debate with regard to Scotland's heart and soul. You might see it that way too. In fact, there are richer and deeper choices still, as we'll see in the Hall of Heroes. From outset, it was decided that Wallace wasn't to be the only hero celebrated here. Maybe to soften the idea of any nationalist sentiment focused on Wallace, there was to be a whole Hall of Heroes, starting with Robert Burns, then Robert Bruce, John Knox, James Watt, Robert Tannahill, Thomas Carlyle, David Livingstone, Allan Ramsay, Sir Walter Scott, Adam Smith, William Ewart Gladstone, and more. But how are they seen today? Are these white male bastions of Victorian Scotland representative or even recognised as today's heroes? Or do we have a richer or poorer range of choices available. It's not a point that I'm making, but a question that I pose, and an observation that our idea of heroes, like national identity, isn't static. Since the first time I came here years ago, heroines have been added. Does the addition of missionary Mary Slessor and Maggie Keswick-Jenks, the co-founder of the Maggie Centre, make this national monument more representative of who we are today? Who chooses? How often should they be augmented or replaced? Where are the heroes of Red Clydeside? Is it the people in this room that have formed us? And what are the heroes inside us doing to frame the image and values of Scotland going forward as we pass on the baton to our children? I made this video to ask questions and to prompt thought. With a hero like Wallace, there's always going to be feeling as well as thought. Personally, I can't understand the mental gymnastics that allowed folk to frame Wallace as a hero of British Empire rather than Scottish independence. Maybe the challenge for me is to at least understand the people who do. You see, without people from different points of view, this monument would never have been built, and I, for one, am glad that it was. Because whatever you think William Wallace and his monument represents, the legacy that he left us is Scotland. If you want to know more about the people who preserved Scotland, then there's a video coming up on screen now. In the meantime, ha mi an dóchas gon be lama alive. Sherry and Rasta.